No.
It sounds like by choice.
Yeah, well, yeah, sort of. Joining us right now.
Well, you don't want to talk about it.
No. Color analyst for your Sacramento Kings. The final time she will be with us. Forever? I don't know. I don't know. We don't know what's going on with contracts in the offseason.
Oh, my goodness.
We don't know what's going to happen. I'm talking about, contract between us and her.
Oh, yeah.
Kayte, good morning.
Oh my goodness. You just immediately stirring the pot this morning. Good morning, fellas.
Good morning.
Hey, you ready to talk Kings?
Yeah, let's do it. I mean, since this is forcing your hand here.
She called a couple times, and I'll stand in front of her. She knew I was depressed, and it's not like she was happy.
Right.
And, I didn't want to talk about it.
Wow.
Just didn't want
What
to.
if there was other conversations you wanted to talk
wasn't.
about? Oh.
There wasn't.
Was there, Katie?
Not true.
I mean,
yeah. So, Jason, that's the thing. Like, no one wants to, deal with the depression that is the end of like a really magical season for the Kings. And I think Dave handled it worse than about most people. But oddly enough, there's other things in the world than basketball. And so I'm like, hey, like, you have no, what if I were in the hospital? You'd have no idea.
You would have told.
Won't even answer the phone.
I would have. I feel like you would have texted me that at some point. That
she'd have to text you to let you know.
Yeah.
But then you would have been in the hospital, and I'd come visit you, and you'd have like grabbed your hand and been like, "Hey, are you okay?" And you'd have been like, "Yeah, but I don't want you to be upset about the Kings, Dave. It was such a great season. You really have to look. What you need to understand, Dave."
Hey, listen. I will say this. I've given you your space. Just like every single fan. Like my whole kind of message at the end of the season was like, let it hurt. Let it hurt for as long as it needs to hurt. And then after that, remember, that we weren't supposed to be here. No one saw this team coming anywhere close to what they did. They got 2 All-Stars, most likely 2 All-NBA players, a unanimous, first time ever, unanimous Coach of the Year. Malik Monk played fantastically. Keegan Murray broke a record, for the rookie, 3-point field goal makes in a season. I mean, we were third in the Western Conference going into the postseason, took the defending champs to 7 games. Like, really so much came out of this season. And I think the biggest thing maybe is that this literally is just the beginning for this team. And when you look at it through those lenses, it's excitement to me.
I'm with you on that, Katie. I think I'm so excited about what they've done, what they can do, I think. But where it hits for me, and I'm wondering if you had any years like this in the WNBA or even in college where I just enjoyed this team so much. So it's something that's being taken away. Of course, I'm upset or saddened that they lost to the Warriors, but it's more so that I wish I could continue to watch them play. And I know next year they'll be a large part the same team, but they won't be exactly the same. So did you ever have a year like that where you just enjoyed yourself so much that part of the sadness is as much knowing that it won't be the exact same? Could be better, but it won't be the exact same as the year you just went through.
Absolutely. And it's interesting because when you say that, Jason, this team, this is really the first time. Listen, you understand like the season and travel and all those things mixed in with your normal, adult responsibilities in life. Like, it can really wear on you and get to be a lot throughout the course of the season. But I will say, like, this group from the players on the roster to the coaching staff to all the people that we travel with and work with, like, it was a joy this season. Like, I enjoyed being on the road and being around everybody. And I enjoyed being at home and sitting, courtside before the game started and being able to just talk to people. And like, Mike Brown did a really great job of fostering a very, very comfortable, happy environment for everybody associated with the team that travels. And if that's the way that it was for the team that travels, you have to imagine that that's the way that it was for everyone that worked in their offices and everything. And that was important to him, that, there was meals provided for everyone. You could go and eat together. You socialize. When we were in Portland, all the coaching staff and players had the ability to bring their wives and girlfriends and family. And we all like kind of intermingled, and you get to know people on a personal level. And that, to me, that makes this season really different than any other season. And something I'm really going to miss is being around those people.
Kayte Christensen with us. One of the things we've been talking about as we look forward to next year and also do the postmortem on this one. One of the things that hurts when you get attached to a team, more often than not, it doesn't matter. You can look at any championship team, any championship contender team. Their first year is generally not the same starting lineup and roster as their third or fourth year. Do you think they lean more towards run it back, or do you think there's the playoffs, if anything, also expose that, maybe there's a bit of a ceiling on this current iteration, a good ceiling, but a ceiling?
I think it's kind of a combination of both, right? I think it exposed some things, but let's be honest about it. Those things were already exposed at the All-Star break and before the trade deadline. And the interesting thing about kind of the NBA trade deadline is there's a lot of times where there were moves that were really close to being made that we're never made aware of, right? And so it also gives insight into how a front office and a general manager looks at their roster, right? So, it was interesting to me because in all these years with the Kings, we have never, ever let a player's contract expire.
Yeah.
They've always been moved at the trade deadline. And there's multiple guys on this roster that have their contract expiring. Most notably is Harrison Barnes, but then also Trey Lyles, who has been so critical to the success of this team throughout the season coming off the bench. And so I look at it like I feel like they do want to run it back to a certain degree because they allowed those contracts to expire, which means they feel like they have built a relationship with these players and that these players would really want to be back here and be a part of this moving forward, right? And they're trusting that kind of relationship that they have established with them. So, but also we know that there are things, and if Looney's rebounding during the first round of the playoffs didn't expose something, I don't know what does. You cannot rely on Domantas Sabonis to be the only rebounding, factor on this roster. So you have to be able to look at that and say, okay, we learned something and we also have to make some changes. But knowing that and being able to facilitate those changes and signings, that's the gamble. That's the challenging part that the front office faces in the offseason.
Yeah, Katie, I think that's a great point. I feel like Sabonis is a real huge focal point of this series, and not in any way that he's obviously a huge foundation. He had a great year. These are all things that you want to go forward with. But what do you think that Coach Brown, the organization, Sabonis himself learned not only about kind of the rebounding thing that he was asked to do and which was great all year, but had some challenges in this series, but also the way they defended him. They clearly tried to take stuff away from him as his superpowers as a passer, scorer. What do you think everybody kind of learned about, and Sabonis himself learned about this series?
Oh, I imagine that, he understands the importance of, he can knock down that shot. The crazy thing is, I think it's more about mentality, right? He is such an unselfish player and such a pass first, facilitate for other type of mindset. I think really what it's going to do for him is continue to work on that. So you become more and more comfortable. But to me, it was less about him not taking them or, not being good at that shot, because he can knock down that shot with about a 50% clip, I would say, that mid-range kind of elbow jumper, which is really what they were taking away. And if he, steps up and starts making those, they can't sag off, and that completely changes the dynamics of the offense. But I think more than anything, what it exposed is his mentality, right? He has to be willing to, as soon as he recognizes the coverage, to put it on the floor, attack in a different way. And we actually saw it a little bit more in Game 6 and even Game 7. You can still run the DHO action, and even when they're sagging off of you. And so I think overall, he individually, but also the team, really learned a lot about how different coverages can impact the offense and what the counter to that is, right? So I imagine that Domas is probably still in an ice bath trying to heal up from this series. Like, it was brutal on a physical level, but also on an emotional and mental level. I thought there was a completely unfair amount of criticism heaped on him. And it's absurd to me, but it also is like, okay, that's fine. People are going to say what they want to say, but he's going to get back to work this off season, you guys. He's going to work with the coaching staff, player development. And one of those things is going to be saying, okay, if someone is not on you, shoot first. Don't think past. Attack the paint. Do that to try and blow up the coverage.
That's Kayte Christensen joining us each and every week in her final appearance of the season. One of the other reasons why Kayte can handle the loss a little better than me is Katie's got 5 months of not working. Whereas
She's always doing something.
Yeah, well, that's where I was leading is, we got to fill 4 hours every day with non-King stuff. Kayte basically gets a 5-month vacation, but I'm going to guess you're going to find a few projects between now and then.
Oh, as if I haven't had the list for months now. Yeah.
All right, we'll have fun remodeling your roof or whatever. Thank you for your visits this week, and we will talk to you soon.
All right, guys, have a good one.
All right,
Thank you.
You too. That's Kayte Christensen. We will take a break. When we come back, part 3, more of Mike Brown's exit interview /speech/conversation/TED Talk. We'll do it next.